Hi everyone, welcome to my channel where I discuss all things human design, except today. Today I'm going to talk about productivity. As a generator in human design, my signature is satisfaction, and I find it very satisfying to be productive and efficient, and I thought it would be interesting to create a video about this. So if you've been around here for a while, this might be a different video than usual, but I still hope that you find this video interesting and relevant and helpful to your own productive ways. And if you're new around here and you have no idea what human design is, I've linked several resources in the description box below where you can learn all about human design. So with that, I've got a lot to share today. I'm going to dive right into it with my top favorite tips when it comes to productivity. Number one, of course, is not a new tip. I'm sure all of you have heard it, but it's planning ahead. I just want to stress the importance of planning ahead. As part of my evening routine, I really take time to reflect on how the day went and then review my day for the next day, because I want to make sure that I'm prepared, that I kind of already know mentally what is the schedule that I have going on. Where do I need to be? Where do I need to go? Who am I going to be meeting? How can I prepare, not just for getting to the places I need to be getting to, but also for the meetings I'm going to be having. Planning ahead is very important, and I know that that's not a new tip, but I think the next tip is a little bit unique. The second tip I have when it comes to being more productive is day blocking. We've all heard about time blocking, and I'm not going to talk too much on how to time block and setting time blocks, and by having time blocks it means you're going to actually show up and it's going to be in your schedule. I'm actually talking about day blocking, so having specific days where you do specific tasks. That way you're just taking away a little bit of that thought process and you're not task switching. I'll get into task switching in a moment when I talk about task blocking, but first up is day blocking. So to review my own way that I day block, I think about it in the following way. So on Mondays are like a admin day. I have a lot of different things and projects that I work on, and so Mondays are the day that I make sure I get to inbox zero, I review my finances, I have some internal meetings, but these are always recurring internal meetings, so there are no surprises, and it's my day to get all of that admin work out of the way so that I'm not doing admin work every day, wasting time and not being productive. Then we have Tuesdays and Thursdays. So Tuesdays and Thursdays I like to think of as my client-facing days. A lot of times I'll be out of the house, I'll be at meetings, I'll go to networking events. I know that on Tuesdays and Thursdays I am going to have to dress up a little bit and I'm going to be seeing people. Then on Wednesdays, I take that as an internal meeting day and I'm meeting with teams internally. I'm usually working from home and maybe I don't need to dress up as much, but I kind of, in my mind, I know how to plan for Wednesday. Friday is a catch-all day. Usually I think about it as a day where I can catch up with friends, or I can have a little bit more of a casual day, but I'll also catch up on any work that I didn't get done throughout the week. Saturday is a complete rest day. I don't believe in working on Saturday. I think it's so important to disconnect and have at least one day of the week where you're not working. And then Sunday I use as my reset day, meaning I clean my apartment, I do my laundry, I reset and make sure that I know what my goals are for the coming week. And I also spend some time reflecting on the previous week and making sure that I'm always improving. That is how I day block, and that's perfectly set up for me to talk next about task blocking. So task blocking is interesting. A lot of times, especially as a generator in human design, we love having our to-do list. We love having, what do we need to focus on, writing everything down, and then we do this silly thing where we actually try to do everything in one day. Have you ever had that where you have like 20 items and you're set to start the day and get through all of the items? And sometimes this works, but oftentimes we overwhelm ourselves. We don't know where to start. We don't know which task we should be focusing on first. We try to jam everything into a 30-minute window and it just doesn't make sense. The first thing I do is I kind of brain dump all the tasks I have to do, and then I actually think about how long does it take to do each of those tasks. So I'll literally write a number representing the minutes. So if it's a 5-minute task, is it a 15-minute task? Is it a 1 hour plus task where I know I'm going to need some more time and I should create a larger block in my schedule? And I also use colors to color code my task list to kind of understand, okay, what is something that I need to do in my regular work, what is something that has to do with human design, what is something that has to do with real estate, what is something that is an admin task that doesn't have to do with a work task. So that way I can actually look at my schedule and I see the colors. And when it comes to task blocking, I can block all of the tasks within one area in one place. So what I mean by this is a lot of times we will schedule a doctor's appointment, then we'll follow up with a client, then we'll create social media, then we'll follow up with a client, then we'll change our address or go to the post office. And so those are 5 different tasks that are 5 different areas of our lives. And all of a sudden we're task switching and maybe it's creating inefficiency. So I always try to be efficient with my time and focus on one area of my life and those tasks, and then switch to the next area. So I create task blocks, but I also, most importantly, as I mentioned, write down next to every task how long I think it's going to take. And if you're new to this, I highly recommend spending a couple weeks just monitoring the time it takes you to complete different tasks so you actually know, because us humans have a very magical way of underestimating the amount of time it takes to do things, and in some cases overestimating the amount of time. So getting really dialed in on how long it takes you to complete a task is going to really help you with this. The 4th productivity tip I have for you is pretty interesting in my opinion, and it's basically saying no to any unplanned meetings or phone calls. What I'm talking about are those meetings where people just pop them on your calendar unnoticed, or when you get a phone call from someone that is not necessarily a friend or a family member and you pick it up and you just take it. Don't do that. Make sure that you set an expectation and a boundary with others that you're not available 24/7 for whenever they're available. You want to make sure that you have standards around when you're communicating and using your time. Time is our most valuable asset. I don't have to tell you that. Everyone knows that our time is constantly being spent. It's the only thing we can't get back and we cannot create more of. So it's so crucial to value your time. If you're getting a call from someone you just met at a networking event and they're just calling you up, you can answer the call, but don't take the call. Even if you have the time, you're like, oh, I'll just get it over with. It's really important to set that boundary and say, hey, I'm so happy you called. Now's not a great time. Are you available in 30 minutes? Are you available tomorrow? And literally set a time, because this is not only showing them that you value your time, but you're also valuing their time by setting a set time, saying, hey, let's talk for 30 minutes in an hour. I recently had this happen to myself. I got a call from someone I met at a networking event. They wanted to chat right away. I was not available. I didn't allow myself to be available on purpose because I didn't want them to think they can just call me up out of the blue anytime unannounced. And then when I did call them back, they wanted to set up a time to talk for an hour. No meeting should be an hour. Perhaps if it's a planning or strategy session, that does make sense to have an hour block, but most meetings can actually be done in 15 to 20 minutes, and you should not allow someone to book 1 hour of your time, especially if it's a first meeting, especially if you know that there's not 1 hour worth of things to digest. When you're in this situation and someone is trying to push an hour-long meeting on you, I highly recommend that you ask them for an agenda ahead of time, and if there's any materials that you can prepare for the meeting so that you know what is going to be discussed, and let them know that you only have 30 minutes, and if needed, perhaps you can schedule another 30-minute window, but do not allow someone to schedule an hour-long meeting with you. That is never a good idea. This is a personal opinion. You might think differently, but I am pretty adamant about that. 1 hour, especially on Zoom or on a phone, is too long unless it's your family or your best friend and you're just catching up, and that's something that you're doing for joy, not work. The last tip I have is basically silencing all of your notifications. When we have notifications on, we're kind of task switching all the time. So if our notifications are on and we're working on one time block of tasks, and all of a sudden we're getting notifications on Slack or WhatsApp or email, and we're having all these notifications, we're distracting ourselves. So I actually have no notifications on my phone or my computer, and when I do open up WhatsApp, for example, or I do open up Slack, that's when I have time to fully concentrate and respond to everybody that is messaging me, rather than just half messaging and not really focusing on what's at hand. At the end of the day, it's so important to stay focused, because when we focus, we're more efficient, and when we're more efficient, we're more productive. So to recap my 5 productivity tips, we have planning ahead, making sure you spend a few minutes at the end of each day to reflect on the day and then review the day for the next day. Day blocking rather than time blocking. You can still time block, but having a day block or a theme of the day can be really helpful in kind of creating the mindset you'll need for the day ahead. Task blocking, so making sure you have your list of all your tasks and kind of whether you color code it or not, but kind of separate it into the different areas that you might be working on. I know that there are a lot of videos about how to define your tasks by urgent, not urgent, etc. But I think it's also helpful to define them by category, whether it's admin, work related, etc. The fourth one is unplanned meetings and phone calls. Don't allow them, and of course don't allow them to be more than 1 hour. And then the fifth one, ending with taking away all notifications. I actually have an entire video all about my phone minimalism practices. It's an older video, but I will link it below. And I talk all about how I practice phone minimalism. And one of those is by not having any notifications on my phone. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe, as I have been putting out a lot more videos lately and I can't wait to create more.